no end of amazing content on both CIUT and Career Buzz. So we're now joined by our guest, Jason Kanigan, author of Get Hired Fast and How to Keep Your Self-Respect While Doing It. Jason, welcome to Career Buzz.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the chance to be here, and I look forward to sharing some awesome information.
Awesome. It's great to have you here on the fall membership show. First of all, what are you doing in your career these days?
Well, I run a business called Sales on Fire, and I help competent businesses and individuals kind of maximize their profit. So I help them find a hungry market, get their pricing in the right order, and they're usually already doing a really great job in helping their target market solve a serious problem, and I help them get the best results out of that.
Great. And what do you like about what's happening in your career these days?
I get to do what I want when I want and work on really satisfying projects that I pick and choose with exciting people.
Great. Now, we're going to find out some tips about job search from your book. But before we do that, Jason, let's hear a bit about your career story. I know there's been some interesting twists and turns in your career. You didn't start out doing what you're doing now. Where did you start out in your career?
Well, we'll go all the way back to 1994. I started out with a Diploma of Technology in Operations Management, which is like process reengineering, continuous improvement, things like that. And I also got a Business Administration degree, a couple other pieces of paper in that. And I started out in the power generation field and did that. I set up a worldwide distributorship program for large industrial power plants. And I did that for a while, but my boss at the time wanted me to be in sales, which is oddly enough where I ended up. And so he had a good eye for recruitment, but I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to do the plant manager, factory manager stuff that I'd gone to school for. And people told me I was too young and I couldn't do that, and I had to kind of wait around for permission. And I discovered that's a load of baloney because I went out and got a plant manager job when I was 25. And I've done a few different things since then, but that, I think, was the key turning point.
So getting that plant manager job. Now, I know you talk a lot about getting jobs when there aren't job postings and sort of creating those jobs, or at least influencing people to create an opportunity for you. What's one example of that?
Well, let's take the last job I had, and probably the last job I will ever have, with a Inc. Top 1000 franchise business. I got in front of the decision makers, and they're a fast-growing company, and I did the process, which I'd like to describe for your listeners, and we'll get into detail on that. And they created a role for me. And so I went from not having a job to instantly having a senior management role created specifically for me and around me, paying very well. And there was no competition. I wasn't fighting anybody else for it. They said, would you please take this? We made this for you. We want you to have it. We do not want to go through the interviewing, screening, hiring process. Please take it.
Right on. Yeah, I don't think people really understand how unpleasant maybe isn't the word, but how difficult it is to post a job and then have to go through all of the steps of gathering resumes and analyzing resumes and interviewing candidates, and how much easier it is for an employer to do what you've just described, and how wonderful it is to be able to create those opportunities. So we're looking forward to hearing some tips about that. My guest today on Career Buzz is Jason Kanigan. He's the author of Get Hired Fast. I'm your host, Mark Franklin, here on the special fall New Sound of Your City membership show. And we are asking listeners to support Career Buzz and to support CIUT. It's just an amazing radio show. It's volunteer-driven. Everybody here is a volunteer, myself included. When I do this show, we've got our techs, Sean, Mitchell, and Lyndon, and we've had an amazing group of techs, and they're all volunteers. There's over 200 volunteers producing amazing spoken word and music shows behind the scenes to make it work for you. So if you want to support us this time around, especially new supporters, people who have never donated to CIUT before, it's really easy to do. We've got people waiting to pick up the phone. Here's the number, 416-946-7800. That's in Toronto, 416-946-7800. You can call toll-free if you're outside of the GTA, 1-888-204-8976, 888-204-8976. You can donate online. Just go to CIUT.FM, click the Donate Now button, and be sure to add Career Buzz as your favorite show. So I'm back talking to Jason Kanigan. Jason, everybody hears advice about fine-tuning your resume and firing it off, make that resume the best it can possibly be and look for job postings. But you do something different. How can you help someone find a job?
Yep, you're absolutely right, Mark. Wow. I want to go back just for a sec and echo what you said about employers hating going through the job hiring process. They absolutely hate it. It goes to the bottom of their to-do list. They'd rather be out golfing. They'd rather be doing just about anything else. So by following the process I'm going to share, it makes it so much easier for them and for you to get a job without any competition. So resumes and cover letters, awful, old technology. I want everybody listening to realize that resumes and job cover letters are old job hunting technology. They are outdated. They are from a time when it was probably dangerous or really inconvenient to travel for an interview, and you don't get hired based on your resume anyway. All the resume's job is to do these days is to get you the interview, hopefully. But if you're competing with that same resume that everybody else is sending out, you can't stand out. And that's one of the critical sort of three feet of the stool of job hunting of my job search model is standing out. If you can't stand out, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's the first thing you really have to do. And so I completely abandoned the resume and the cover letter as job hunting tools. Now, nobody has ever taught you or told you about any other method. So now we have a big blank space in our brains about what do I do for job hunting, and that freaks people out. Okay, what we're going to do is start developing some content, some online content about you and the area of expertise that you want to get into. And this is really great for transitioning, or if you're a recent graduate, you can start demonstrating that you have some expertise and that you're learning in this field. And these could be interviews. You call up people who are already doing the job that you'd like to do and interview them for 10 minutes and put that audio up online. This should be very easy for people. It's free to do this. You can go make a Google site for nothing. You could make a video or a series of videos where you talk to the camera about a point in your subject matter to demonstrate your expertise.
Jason, let me ask you one question about that. The idea of getting content or learning about a job from somebody who's doing it. I love that idea. I call that field research when we're talking to our clients to go out and speak to people and find out a bit more about it. But you've just suggested actually putting the content of that on the Internet. So if you were having an interview with somebody and you were going to record it and you wanted to post it later, how would you set that up? What would you say to the caller or to the person who you're calling to get their permission to do that?
Be very direct about it. Just say, hey, I'm doing some research, and I'd like to use what we talk about as content on my website, which is kind of an online biography or resume about myself so that employers can learn and see me as an individual. And also that they'll learn a little bit about you, your interview subject, obviously, because you're talking to them.
Oh, yeah.
You won't get any resistance.
Do people generally say yes to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Human beings want to be cooperative for the most part. They want to be cooperative. And people will share information with you for two main reasons. One, they want to be friendly. And two, they want to show off how much they know. And so let them do that. All
right. There's one idea. So we're talking here about job search tips and abandoning or let's say finding alternatives to traditional job search. My guest is Jason Kanigan. He's an author of Get Hired Fast, and I'm your host, Mark Franklin, here on Career Buzz. It is the special fall membership edition of Career Buzz called The New Sound of Your City. Put your money where your ear is. So I'm talking to Jason Kanigan. He's just suggested a couple of alternative ideas, put online content. Where, Jason, would people do that? Would they put it right onto their LinkedIn profile? Do you suggest they create their own blog site with WordPress? What kind of things, where would they put it?
Right. Now, you don't have to spend any money on this, Mark, if you don't want to. Or you're not able to. You can go create a free Google site or something with Wix or something like that. You could put it on your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a great method for connecting with decision makers. They read their in-mail there. They read the LinkedIn email a lot more than they do their regular email. And so that's a great way of connecting with them. And that's what we're going to do with this online content that we're developing, is we're going to drip feed it to decision makers that we're going to pick out. And I'll talk a little bit about how to pick out those people in a moment. But, yeah, I mean, you can create your own website on your own domain. You could create a free website. You could get some sort of other free, like there's a blogger.com. You can go and get some online real estate for yourself at no cost.
Great. So we're going to put some online content up, maybe on a Google page. What else? What are the other tools and methods that people can try and create jobs for themselves, especially when people say, well, gee, I'm not qualified for that. I don't think I could get that job, even though they may not know what's involved in it. What other tips and techniques can people use that are alternatives to traditional job search?
Well, yeah, chasing want ads, you're just running into a field of competitors and a blizzard of resumes and applications that look exactly like yours, and so you're not going to stand out. Going and doing what you called that research, that information interviews, going and talking to people actually doing the job that you want to do, especially if you're transitioning, in different companies to get different perspectives. The same job can be performed different ways in different cultures, right? Different organizational cultures. So it's great to have that perspective of having talked to several different people at different companies.
Right on. So we're going to do some field research, talk to people who are in jobs. Ultimately, though, then there's still that next step, right? I mean, sometimes there are opportunities inside a company, and you don't know about it until you spoke to the person inside. Sometimes people have employee referral programs, and there are jobs that are hidden or invisible to the person. But let's say you're talking to somebody, you've got a field research interview happening. How can you escalate it then to check out if there are any jobs? What sort of suggested questions or phrases can you suggest?
In a field research thing, I wouldn't even talk about a job because you don't want to get the reputation going around that you're doing these information interviews to get a job. That's not really the purpose. In my point of view, the purpose is to learn what your own preferences are, to see these people in these different organizations and find out, okay, I like this kind of thing, but I don't like that. And now you know what to look for. Now, after you've visited, you can send a thank you note, and they may ask you for a resume in that information interview. I would never, ever try to come across like you're looking for a job. Look, I'll send you that. I'm happy to send that after the interview later on, but for right now, I'm here to learn about you and what you do here and what it's like. So stick to that topic.
Great. So then what happens next? If let's say you build that relationship with that person and you've got some connection with them, what happens next?
Yeah, odds are they will tell you if there's some sort of internal position. I mean, they want to be helpful. You're clearly there looking for information on the job that they're doing. If there is a job available, odds are they'll tell you. But you could simply say in your thank you note, appreciated meeting you, really enjoyed what you had to share. Here's one big takeaway that I got, which I'll sort of treasure for the rest of my life, knowing that. And also, please feel free to keep an eye out, and if you see anything that you think might be a fit for me, I would love to hear about it. That's perfectly acceptable.
Right on. So that would just suggest building your network, speaking to as many people as possible to get that kind of message out there.
Well, you are talking to a target audience here, right? The people doing the job that you're interested in doing. Now, what I really suggest doing in order to get a role created for you and get this done quickly, which is far preferable to trying to duke it out with hundreds of other or thousands of other people for one job, is look for companies that are likely to want to hire you. And this is after you do some information interviews and find out what your preferences are in that. Go and use LinkedIn and Google searching and that to find companies that likely have a need for the skills that you want to provide to them. And look for a sweet spot. We don't want companies that are too small or just starting up because they're always in danger of collapsing or running out of cash and that kind of thing. And so creating a role for them is a struggle. We also don't want companies that are too large, maybe over about 50 people, because at that point the procedures and policies have started to kind of fossilize, and they too have difficulty making decisions and hiring people. You got to go through HR and that kind of thing. So we want this sweet spot of around 11 to 50 employees, and we want to get in front of the decision makers, and here's where LinkedIn is a great tool again, at those companies, like the CEO, the top dog here, because they have the power to completely ignore the budget and do whatever they want. They can alter the plan at any time. I like this person. I want you to create a role for them. That's what they do. And so find those people, find maybe 20 companies that have that sweet spot of 11 to 50 employees. They have the cash. They have the stability. They are used to creating roles for people. It's another thing, whatever, another role. No big deal. That franchise business that I worked for, they want to hire another writer at $2,000 a month or whatever. Do you think that's a big deal to them? It's nothing. If a writer actually went to them and said, hi, I'm a writer. Here's what I do. Here's how I've niched down. Here's how I think I can help you. They would stand out so far ahead of every other applicant, and the marketing director there would love it. Please, I've been waiting for somebody like you to come along. It's easy.
Sometimes people are apprehensive to speak to that decision maker, and that's what you got to do. I mean, for sure, there are people who have the authority within any organization to create roles, as you're suggesting. What are a few tactics that people can use to reach that decision maker who can actually influence or affect this opportunity?
I really, really like LinkedIn for this because, as I said, the LinkedIn email system is something that they look at. They'll actually read. And this is why we're creating this online content, is we're going to drip it out to these folks once a week, twice a week, something like that. Hey, I did something interesting. And so we can find out who the decision makers are through Google search, connect with them through LinkedIn, usually by joining a mutual group. That's the way I usually do it. When I want to talk to somebody, I'll look at their profile, see a group that they're connected to, find one that's of mutual interest, join it, and then connect with them on the basis of being mutual members of that group. It's pretty straightforward. It may take a couple days. Just keep an Excel spreadsheet or a list of what you're doing and what stage you're at. And then send them a quick email with something like, Hi, Mark, you and I haven't met, but I created this content, and I think you'd enjoy it. Please have a look. If you never want to hear from me again, just hit reply and put the number 1 in there, and I'll never bother you again. But I think, again, that you really will get something out of it. And if you do, I really look forward to learning your opinion on it. Thanks. And it's as simple as that. And so you've made it easy for them to tell you to go away. They don't want to be bothered. But a lot of leaders appreciate this kind of initiative, especially when the content is relevant to them. You're not spamming them. If you do this correctly, you're giving them information that will help them.
Right on. My guest today is Jason Kanigan. He's given us alternative or non-traditional job search strategies here on Career Buzz. I'm your host, Mark Franklin, on CIUT 89.5 FM in Toronto and worldwide at CIUT.FM.